AI is such a great tool to magnify your thinking and how good your work is. So if your work is really good, it's going to make it excellent. And it's just how you use it. So I absolutely love it. I think that it is the future. I think in some ways it is a little bit scary what's going on and how fast it's moving. But it's like anything, right? Like, I mean, who would have thought in the 80s we were going to have Zoom?
A leader has to take the risks. Thank you so much for coming on Wealth on the Beach podcast. I'm excited to have you here. Justine Pogroske.
Got it right.
All right. I was practicing, if you want to know the truth.
You got it perfectly right.
But Justine, you're a brander, a $1 million brander. You're a thought leader. You are a brand strategist. You're all kinds of things, so tell me a little bit about, like, how did you get involved in this world?
Sure. So I think I've always been an entrepreneur from a young age. I actually immigrated from South Africa when I was about 11 and a half years old. So what happened was my family, I remember when the old Blockbuster stores were happening and it was the thing to do on a Saturday night. So we went to go get a movie, my dad, my brother, and myself. My mom was in the house alone, and what happened was we drove back into a shootout, and there were 9 men with machine guns who shot the power lines, and my mom had to hide in the bathtub to prevent herself. We didn't know if she was alive or dead. We were in the driveway and there was just gunshots going backwards and forwards. And then basically the next day, my parents were like, we're out of here. So we packed up our whole life into a 40-foot container and immigrated to Australia. And I know it's quite similar to your journey, Daniel. You come from a background where you don't have a choice. You just got to make it. And from a young age, I always had jobs. I've been working since literally 12 years old. And while normal kids were going to school 5 days a week and having their beautiful weekends, and having, their privileges of playing sport and doing different things, I was working because I just wanted to contribute, and I was quite mature, I think, for a 12-year-old, but it was always my thing. Like I had this insatiable drive because nothing was actually handed to me on a silver platter. And I think the thing that people don't see is what you have now. It's like what goes on when the lights are off and when no one's watching. And that's what contributes to your success in life in general. It's about discipline. And I know you're big on this, but what happened was I worked in many different jobs, and I'm going to call them almost sales roles, because I think every job that I had was always being, I'm going to call it front and center, where I was always selling something. So whether it be ice cream or coffee or donuts, and then eventually getting into retail. And I was always extremely artistic, and I wanted to get into the world of basically branding, I'm going to call it. So I got a job at my first company that was a publishing company, where I was designing magazine to magazine, about 20 magazines for my creative director, who is such a good soul. I still talk to him. He hired me in my first job, and we were under a lot of pressure, but it threw me in the deep end. And then I remember sitting at my desk one day after working there for about 2 years, and he taught me really how to be a perfectionist. So in terms of layout and understanding how a magazine works. And that was before all the internet stuff and the social media. So magazines were big.
Right.
I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, of course.
And I remember sitting at my desk and I was like, do I really want to spend my life laying out other people's copy for articles? Like, I'm learning a lot because it's great, because I was always reading, right? Whether it would be sports magazines or wine sommelier magazines, or I was reading while I was designing, but I wanted to make the transition into advertising. And that was when it was very glamorous. I mean, now everyone has an advertising agency, but there were the big firms like Ogilvy and Saatchi, and there was a job going for a digital designer. That was when flash banners were around. So for the millennials listening to this, I mean, there was a lot of work that was involved in flash banners. Now you just basically film on your phone, or you do these cute little ads. Back then, there was a whole process behind designing an ad for a company, and it was all about the thought process and the artistic ability. But I actually campaigned for my first job. And I got in touch with the creative director of a firm called 𝐓𝐘𝐒, and I basically sent him a million things. So I've campaigned and I sent him like little running shoes. And I said, I know I need to learn to walk before I run, but I'm going to be your best runner. And I did so many of these little gimmicks that eventually he called me and he was like, Justine, you got the job. Just please stop contacting me. Stop sending me stuff. So he was like,
so you're saying that you're persistent. Is that what you're saying?
very. And I think it's something, I mean, it has changed a little bit. It's very psychological. It's very psychological now in business, the way people do business, which is quite interesting. I think the dynamic had changed. But back then, I mean, I'm only 24 now for anyone listening, but back then it was a thing where you had to persevere because everyone wanted the same job. I mean, working for those firms, there were about 50 applicants wanting the same job. I know New York mentality is the same. You got to, like, if you're not working hard, there's someone else working hard. And I believe that's something that really taught me work ethic for life. So it was the immigrant mentality coupled with the persistence. And I worked there for many years. And then I started my own business, Million Dollar Branders. A couple of years later, there was a gap in the market for boutique agencies. So it's not like now where everyone is a marketer, but had a bit of an experience, and then it just transitioned me into freelancing. So I work for a lot of companies. There's a television channel in Australia called Network 10, work for them, Fairfax Digital. There's all different companies. I was also in the corporate sector doing work with PwC.
And what side, I mean, what type of stuff, I mean, specifically, what type of stuff would you be doing day to day for these companies?
So my background is publishing, as I said. I've touched in all realms, but user experience, I'm sure people listening to this, so it's the psychology behind how a website works. So it's why people click in a certain place, what gets them to read certain things. I've done work with the Australian Navy, don't tell anyone, but it's basically very psychological. So it's how you look at something, how you approach certain things that you design, and why they put on a website and a page. I mean, I've literally designed projects where we've put heat maps on pages. So there's certain tools that you can actually test where the eye is looking first, what people are spending the most time on. So not just that, back like rewind, I did something called award school in Australia. So it's basically like Miami ad school. It teaches you how to think very differently. So you know those ads, the Super Bowl ads, for instance, great example. I'm obsessed with them. I love watching them. It doesn't matter how simple they are, they're about evoking emotion. So it's those ads that you see on TV that make you think, wow, this is funny, or it makes you cry or makes you laugh, kind of like a mini movie. And that's what I think is missing from today's time. So that's the old school advertising that I was taught to do, like the Mad Men days. Whoever's watched Mad Men, yeah. I know you like those.
I mean, are you like fascinated with like politics and things like that, like what they're doing politically in
Totally.
do you follow American politics?
I love America because I think America and Americans, the ones that I know anyway, are real go-getters.
Right.
I don't know what it is, like they've just got fire, insatiable drive. And I think Americans really know advertising.
So is it kind of strange to you in a way how they kind of took this Kamala Harris 3 years of doing nothing, and then all of a sudden she's like this brilliant, amazing, incredible lady? Is it fascinating or what?
It's not fascinating because it's all just psychology to me. So I'm watching that going like, this is just like, even Donald Trump, I mean, make America great again. Like I laugh with my friends. I'm like, make America great again, again. Like that should have been his tagline. But it's some of the ads are just crazy that they've got running now. Like it's just, it shows the power of branding. And I think people really underestimate good branding. Like I did a post yesterday, great branding is about bringing people to you. It's about getting attention. So I haven't just designed ads in my career and how people think. It's also how it looks online. Do you look professional? It's like you wrote a book, right? So I love the name, by the way, but when people look at it, it's like, what emotion is it evoking? And then it's coupled with the copywriting. So it's a look, the feel, and then literally the feeling, like what emotion does it evoke in you? And this stems to any piece of content you do. So it's video content, it's your personal brand, it's how you show up. I always say to my team, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So, I mean, this is something that was instilled in me when I was working for those ad agencies. I used to come to work and be like, this is my business. And I would pretend that it was my firm, because everything that I put my name to, whether it's my company, whether it's my personal brand, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a podcast, you will attract the quality that you portray in everything that you do in life. So I
Yeah.
believe 100 or nothing. I know you are the same.
Right.
I can.
Well, no. What I was going to say is, I mean, I was thinking the same thing when I was starting a business. I mean, I just pretended this was my business. I didn't, I actually tried to get people to see me. I didn't really care about the corporation. The corporation meant nothing to me because people weren't buying the corporation. They were buying Daniel
Absolutely.
Alonzo, right? They're the ones that are going to sit down with me and do business with me. They're the ones that were going to come to work with me. And as we recruited and trained all these people, opened up locations and expanded and did all this stuff. I mean, these people were buying me. They were buying my vision. What was I going to do? How was I going to do it? Who cares about the company website and, you know, how perfect that is? You know, they wanted to know what I was going to do for them.
Absolutely. And it's again, you know, I think a lot of people, I think it's very important to present yourself well online in everything that you do
Correct.
and offline.
Correct.
However, it's also important, speed is important for success. You got to have the speed coupled with it. So a lot of people think that it's super easy to put together a brand or to be a brand or to represent a brand or to build a company. And I'm so interested. I know we're doing a podcast with you too, but it's about speed and then also how it looks, how it feels, because they connect it. Everything is an immersive experience. And especially now, people are so spoiled. Attention spans are so small now. I
Right.
mean, look, Instagram reels, like what's it, 1 minute? TikTok, like Snapchat, like
But
who would have thought?
they say now the reel should only be like 30 seconds, you know? So yeah,
That's
I mean,
right.
they just want it shorter and shorter and shorter. Yeah. And then what about that trend that it was like ding, ding, ding. You know
I
which
don't
one I'm
even
talking
go
about?
there. I
Yeah,
don't even
no,
play.
it's like
I don't even
I
play.
was just laughing. I'm like, this is the shortest Instagram reel. And it was like a trend going on for a couple of weeks. And I'm just cracking up going, that's a short attention span.
It definitely tests you. But to answer your question before, so I mean, I've tapped in all different realms and I've played in every different field. And I know they say you should just be good at one thing, but I think it was so important that I diversified in everything I do. So the UI design, which is how things look, the branding, the logo development, the tagline, like award school. I feel like everything in my life has actually led me to who I am, and it's enabled me to build an amazing team of talent and to work with individuals who are just next level. Like I'm doing work for NASCAR clients now, like people behind the scenes. Like I'm started, you know, in South Africa. Like I'm in Australia now. I'm doing business in America. Like I was just thinking about this morning. Like being an entrepreneur is so amazing. It's a gift that you have, but it's something that is so untapped if you're good at what you do and you love what you do. It's so important to love what you do.
Yeah, I think that you know, I mean, I've been an entrepreneur now for 28 years, and I feel like one of the luckiest.
Congratulations.
I feel like one of the luckiest people in the world because I mean, and of course, I mean, you know, my life is a lot different today versus 20 years ago, but
100%.
you know, because I have the freedom and the choices and the options and all that stuff, but I still love when I sit down with a client and I can map out their financial plan and I give them advice on how to get the right insurance and investments. And then they're like, oh, I'm screwed up financially. All right, let's do some budgeting. Let's figure out,
So
exactly where
cool.
your money's going. And like, I love that. I really, really, and because I love doing it for myself because I've always been very financially organized. But man, I love doing it for clients. So I get what you're saying because I think we're so blessed and lucky that we get to
We
be
are.
entrepreneurs. We get to be free to build it as big as we want to.
Totally. And there's so much moving and shaking you can do. And I don't want people to listen to those and think it's easy because it's definitely not. Like, I think we both can say it's not. And every single level you reach will demand a different level of you. So it's never easy what you do. And I think the problem these days is people are looking for a quick fix. Like, oh, I'll just do Bitcoin. Oh, let me move to selling domain names. Oh, let me move to real estate. Let me move. And they keep moving around. I know 𝐷𝐿𝐒𝐄 says it so well. He's like, ignore the lady in the red dress.
Right.
Although I do look good in red. But I'm just saying, like, ignore the lady in the red dress. Like, that's what you have to do, because there's going to be so many things that are going to deter you, but you got to stay in your lane. I read an amazing book actually by Robert Greene called Mastery.
Love
I
it.
love his books, but
He's one of my favorite authors, by the way. Yeah. He's incredible. Yeah.
Brilliant human. Yeah. So I think that's what it's about. But you know what I'm talking about.
So being a woman in business, harder, easier? I've been saying for quite a while now that this is the decade of the women. This is the decade of the woman. So tell me, easier, harder?
That's such a great question, and I'm so happy that you actually asked that, because it's a very interesting question. So I am very old school. Like, I was brought up in an old school family, and for those of you listening, it's traditional South African family where, you know, the woman has a role, the man has a role. I don't care if people are listening to this saying like, oh, whatever, she's sexist or whatever, but I do believe a woman should be a woman and a man should be a man, and we have certain roles. And I'm not saying you can't have the business, but I don't believe in, like, I'm just going to say it how I believe it. I don't believe in outshining your man. I think that you've got to support each other, and you've got to support each other's strengths and what the person is good at. And it goes the same for any relationship. It's not just about whatever, husband and wife, boyfriend and girlfriend, Beyonce, whatever it is. Like, you got to support the person's strength. But going back to your question, is it harder? I think anything in life, even regardless of what sex you are as a person, I know there's all this he, she, like, you can't even say if it's a boy or girl anymore with this environment that we're living in. But I think it's actually,
especially Australia. You might go to jail now if you say the wrong thing in Australia. So yeah,
unbelievable. I just don't know what's going on. So the lines are getting more blurred and blurred. But I do believe anything in life is what you make it. So if you want to see it as hard, it's going to be hard. But I do believe, like, I don't like this whole, excuse my swearing, this whole boss bitch mentality. I think that it is just so, like, I think it's ruined our culture. I think all the apps have ruined our culture. I think that you can use your femininity as a woman, because women and men have very different traits. So we are naturally softer. We are, but you can still have that business boardroom mentality, but you don't have to be a man. And I don't know why a lot of women are thinking like this now, because I've actually found, like, my nurturing nature, my light, has made my work, my team, my everything so much better. So much better. So, like, why are we trying to blur the lines? Like, play into your strengths. What are you good at? What is it that only you can do better? And it goes back to, like, are you a man or are you a woman? And you've got to, I think, take yourself out of that box sometimes. Like, sometimes I have had hard situations, because obviously, like, I mean, I'm blonde and I take care of myself and I go to the gym every day and I'm super disciplined. So I am going to get, what do you call it? Like, just generalized and put in a box. But I think when I open my mouth and people hear me actually speak, that there's a person behind it, and that I actually put work into myself, it does become different. But you know what? People will perceive you how you want to be perceived. It goes back to, like, if you want a relationship that's great, like, be that person yourself. And I'm very into self-development, and I always have been, because, as I said, nothing was handed to me on a silver platter. I've worked so hard for everything I have. Like, I had someone say to me the other day, actually, how does it feel to just have everything? And I literally was like, wow, because it's not about that. Like, people don't see the hard moments. They only see how you present yourself on Instagram and the pretty pictures. They don't see the hard moments, the self-reflection, the work on yourself, when there's an issue, as not even as an entrepreneur, as a person, you're always going through things in life. Imagine if life was easy. Firstly, I think it would be very boring. Secondly, you just wouldn't develop as a person. What do you think?
No, I think that you're absolutely right. I think that, I mean, the original question was, man, you know, is it easier for a woman? Is it easier for a man? And I think you answered it perfectly, because, I mean, if you really think about it, right, there in some situations, it's easier for a man. And in other situations, it's easier for a woman. Like, for example, I think that women, I think, are great salespeople. because especially if you know how to be a salesperson and you're a woman, you can use that feminine side. And of course, a man might be more inclined to buy from a woman that takes care of herself, that she's disciplined, that she works hard. And at the same time, she can be feminine and know the right things to say to him. She can show him respect. She knows the right. Again, I think the challenge is in this boss babe mentality. These women are just men. So a man is naturally kind of like, what's that word I'm looking for? They're kind of pushed away from that. They're kind of, they're kind of turned off by that behavior because it feels like she's just a bitch, right? And, nobody wants to do business with a bitch, just like a woman wouldn't want to do a business with a guy that's just an asshole, right? But a woman in a powerful position, she might want to do business with a guy that is, masculine, and he's a take charge guy. He gets shit done. He makes it happen. He does it now, all that stuff. So again, in each situation, right, we have benefits. We have good things about men, bad things about men, good things about women, bad things about women. But man, if you can just stay in your lane, and you can master like what you're good at in your business, and like in your case, you're a brand strategist, right? You could look at a brand, you could say, all right, let's change it here, let's do this, let's modify this, let's maybe change this tagline, let's do this, whatever it is that you do, let's redevelop your website or whatever, and you're able to come in there and do that, and at the same time, you're able to, in a way, get somebody to your way of thinking based on psychology, based on asking the right questions, based on your empathy, based on actually really caring about this client. Man, I mean, I think that it's a win-win for everybody. When you look at Australia right now, I mean, you were kind of maybe alluding to it a little bit. It's becoming harder and harder to live in Australia because of so many restrictions, so many. I mean, for example, and by the way, I don't know if you knew this, but my co-author of my book, Wealth on the Beach, she's actually from Australia. Wow. And so she's from Sydney, and we actually wrote it during COVID, kind of the tail end of COVID. And we sat on Zoom just like this, almost every day for 6 months, putting together our book. And, we put it together. And I just couldn't believe
the restrictions.
Literally, like concentration camps in Australia. Like, what are these people doing? And they're literally damaging this beautiful, amazing country.
Yes. And without getting political, but I just wanted to say one thing before I forget my thought. Going back to the woman-man thing, I think there's nothing better in a man. Also, it's one of the most alpha male things to do is support your woman. So I just wanted to add that in, like lift her. I'm going to say this for people that hate me, sorry, not sorry, but it's like if you can support your woman in what she does and lift her and see her light, there's nothing better than that.
Right. So I think, I mean, and by the way, that's one of my principles in my book. It's called pushing up people or lifting up people.
I love it. In general, right?
In general, yeah. I mean, but especially though, if you want to have a great relationship, I think, man, two heads, I've been talking about partnership my entire career. Two heads going in the same direction are absolutely unstoppable. Man, when you have a man that's pushing up his woman and a woman that's pushing up her guy, I mean, you can't stop those people. You look at some of these power players like Ryan Reynolds and his, what's her name? Blake Lively. And you look at that couple, man, they're billionaires now. I mean, they are taking over the world right now because number one, he respects her. I mean, just, in public, he respects her. I'm sure at home, they probably respect each other's ideas. They're pushing each other up. You could just feel that energy.
Really great energy. have you noticed how into their roles they are? Like
That's it.
she's feminine, but she's still strong. And
Right.
he's so alpha male, but he's funny and he's quirky and
Right.
he just loves her. And that's a beautiful dynamic. I love that couple. But
Absolutely.
um, it's so, firstly, congratulations on your book. And I know we're going to talk about that on our podcast coming up, but that's awesome. It's amazing what you can do on Zoom these days. But I do think I have to say, for the record, I'm super grateful to Australia because I come from South Africa. It is very dangerous, as you know my story a
Right.
little bit about
Right.
it. But I do think wherever you are in the world, you have to do your best. Like you got to be the best version of you. So the only thing you can control in life, I believe, is like what's on the inside of you,
Right.
whether it's an entrepreneur or a person. Like your mindset can make or break you, period, point blank.
100%. 100%.
Or it actually doesn't matter where you are, but they went through a tough time. COVID was
Right.
crazy in the world.
Well,
How did
it was crazy. It was crazy, but I think it was self-inflicted. I mean, it was self-inflicted
Yes.
craziness, in my opinion. Again, I don't want to, I know you might not want to get political, and that's fine. But I mean, the truth is, us as business people, let's be honest, right? I mean, we have to play within the rules. And I
Yes.
look back at COVID. COVID was very damaging to me personally and my business personally because they shut people out. I used to do big events. I used to do events where we'd have thousands and thousands of people in a room.
Wow.
Now,
Mm.
we're starting to get back to that stuff, and it's all happening. And of course, but there was a lot of people that lost their way during this time, and I think it was very damaging. It was great for Amazon. It was great for some of these online businesses, which is wonderful. But some of us that ran businesses that are physical, right? We have a lot of physical
Yes.
people in our business. We have 1,500 licensed agents, 57 physical locations. So this was very damaging. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is because I had a friend not too long ago. He's like, you can't do anything about politics because they're just going to do whatever they're going to do. And that's not the truth. The truth is we got to voice our concerns, and we got to be brave enough to cross that line if we have to, because if we don't, the government will take over, because all they want is power. They want the power to be able to do the things that they want to do. And if they have absolute power, they will control every part of our life. And that is just not the way that we should be living as free people in this world. I mean, I've always looked at Australia as being a free place. Like that's that's not like China. I never thought of Australia like China or anything. And I'm not saying they're China. Australia, I just came back from Australia a couple of months ago. I was in Sydney and I had a great time. I actually, yeah, I stayed at the W, one of the most amazing hotels I've ever stayed at. Yeah, I would do a commercial for their hotel. I love their hotel so much. They had the best buffet I've ever been to in my life. It was freaking amazing. So again, I'm not trying to bash Australia. I'm just saying that if you're a Australian policymaker, come on, let's get back to free speech. Let's get back to freedom and choices, and let's be humans again. But hey, look, next question. I want to know, how are you utilizing like AI in your business today?
I love AI. So I know a lot of people they're a little bit scared of it. I think AI is scaring people because it's moving so fast. I honestly thank God every day, and this is not in a corny way, that I'm in a digital space, that I started this stuff early. But I think AI is such a great tool to magnify your thinking and how good your work is. So if your work is really good, it's going to make it excellent. And it's just how you use it. So I absolutely love it. I think that it is the future. I think in some ways it is a little bit scary what's going on and how fast it's moving, but it's like anything, right? Like, I mean, who would have thought in the 80s we were going to have Zoom?
Right.
I remember when I immigrated, Facebook had just come out. So it was like I got to 10 years after I'd seen my friends, that I got to see them grown up and living their lives and where they were at. It was like an online reunion, which was just crazy for me because I hadn't seen them for so long. So,
I knew Zoom was going to happen because I watched the Jetsons when I was a little kid. So everything that has happened on the Jetsons is literally coming to life now. So yeah. So the
How
Jetsons
crazy.
is a perfect. I'm not even kidding. I swear to you, the other day I watched a couple of episodes of the Jetsons because I wanted to see if I could find like an invention that hasn't been invented yet. Because I watched a couple episodes and I was just watching. I mean, they had Zoom, they had the walkways, they have the flying
Funny.
cars, which we have flying cars now, and so
Totally.
there's
Things are
so
getting
many.
crazy.
They are,
And
but like.
The Simpsons have also predicted a lot of stuff, which is just beyond
Mhm.
like ever in my life. So
Yeah, exactly. Predictions, major predictions on The Simpsons, right?
totally.
So what scares you about? Because you said it's kind of scary a little bit, but what scares you about AI?
So I've got a very good friend in Sydney. His name's Matt Barry. If you don't know him, you should actually like I'll connect you with him if you want. But he's incredible in the AI space. So he owns a company called freelancer.com and he's always sending me things like this is what's going on, that's what's going on. So I think in terms of robotics, and I'm gonna talk about I don't want to get political, but the whole war thing. I don't think we're gonna have soldiers in the future, put it that way, fighting wars. It's gonna be basically like the Terminator on steroids, except not with Arnold Schwarzenegger's accent. I think it will take things to the next level, but in a nice, fluffy way. I feel like it's very good. It's very good for business. I would
Right.
highly recommend, and it's so easy. I mean, we've got YouTube now. We've got all these things. You just Google and jump online. You don't know how to do something, go type it into YouTube. Like AI is the greatest thing I think that will happen to businesses if you embrace it and you use it in the right way. So I love it. I don't let things, I've got a very high threshold for things that scare me. I mean, I am a human being, so I do have my certain fears, but I always try to do the things that scare me first in life. And maybe that's not normal. I don't know, but it's something that I use to drive me.
Uh-huh. Well, look, I mean, I think that AI is amazing for so many things. I mean, look, I think AI is so good because it puts hours back in our life. It gives us so much more free time because it automates so many things now. It's so easy to prompt AI. Like I use ChatGPT, almost
All
every
the time.
day. I mean, I
Yeah.
literally, so I did this test. So I don't know if you ever heard of Brian Johnson before, but
No, have
is
to.
he is the most measured man in the world. So
Wow.
Brian Johnson, he has been testing his body. He sold Venmo a couple
Of
of
course,
years
I know
ago.
who that is. I know who
Okay,
you're talking about. Now I
perfect.
know.
So this dude's
Yeah.
badass. He's literally reversing his age. Okay.
Wow.
So I'm very intrigued by that because I've always been into health. I've always
Biohacking.
cared. Yeah, exactly. I've always cared about my health. And so I started following this guy and so he made a recommendation like, hey, go get all these tests done. So I got, I don't know, 128 or 142 biomarkers tested in my body, like 50 different
Wow.
types of cancers I got tested for. I'm freaking badass, man. I mean, I am like so rock solid right now. It's unbelievable. My
Good for
my blood
you.
came back so good. Thank God. I mean, but again, I knew it was going to probably come back pretty good because I had, I've been working on myself for a long, long time, and I've been drinking a lot of greens. I drink a lot of whatever. But what was cool is they gave you recommendations of things to eat. So there was like 14 out of the 142, there were 14 biomarkers that were a little bit not 100% for me. So, this was a little bit high, this was a little bit low, this was a little bit out of, whack or whatever. So
Wow.
then what it did is it gave this like million-page report on telling me how to fix everything. So I copied that report, I stuck it into ChatGPT, and I said, "Tell me, build me a grocery list based on this
Wow. I
report.
did
Make
it.
me a
Wow.
grocery list, and then also tell me, categorize it in the areas of the grocery store, so that way when I'm shopping, I can just go into that
So
section, and
cool.
all these things are in the section." 3.7 seconds later, I have this amazing list with the things that I should be eating, the things that I shouldn't be eating. And it saved me hours of having to read that giant report. These are the type of things. I mean, look, I'm doing a world trip in for Asia, and I'm going to be going to a couple months. I'm going to be going to Japan and Bali, and I'm like leaving for a month. I'm going to Vietnam and all
Amazing.
these different places.
Great.
I just punched it in a chat GBT. It gave me everything. It gave me the weather every day for every day that I'm going to be there, with every country, every location,
Wow.
what hotels to stay in, what flights to take. I mean, it was unbelievable. This is the power of AI.
And I'm going to say I love the organization in how you do things. I feel like I'm very OCD with like just that stuff. So I love that. But the other thing is, I think you said it perfectly. It doesn't matter if you're a personal trainer or whatever it is, like use it in your business, use it when building your brand, use it when building your company, because I think it can only enhance it, but it is how you think. And it's interesting because I've been doing a lot of posts lately on what is called divergent branding. So going against the grain and thinking differently and thinking like there is no box, basically. And those are the brands that get attention. I mean, I don't want to get political, but look at Donald Trump, right? Like, and look at look at the way people market themselves. Like those are the brands that really stand out, that are doing things differently, that are a little bit polarizing. It's like, why do people click on Instagram reels? Because they word it differently. They word it in a polarized form. So AI, I think, is great.
Yeah, I think that you look at like a Donald Trump. I think a lot of people resonate with Donald Trump because, I mean, he's kind of humanized now.
I
I
was
mean,
just about to say
yeah, because
exactly.
I know you talk about, and I want you to talk more about it, about kind of humanizing branding and what that means. But I think like him being indicted with all these things and being sent to court, and then they get shot. I mean, you got to imagine. I mean, the guy almost got assassinated, and then at the same time, you see a guy that like is getting emotional, and he's on camera and he's kind of emotional, going, I can't believe these people are doing this to me. And look, this is.
He loves, I do believe, like, I mean, the one thing I will say, not just with him, but you guys love your country. Like, I love America because you guys love America. Like, I've always loved
Right.
America and the people, because I think it's the same. I think America in itself is a brand, to be honest. And you just need
Oh
to look at
yeah.
your own country. Like, you need to look at how your country is branded. I mean, look at Hollywood, look at the movies, look at the American flag. I'm going to just say for the record, the American flag is one of my most favorite icons of all time. Like, it's just, you look at the stripes. Like, I'm into a little bit of astrology, not in a woo-woo way, but they were saying like 33 is one of the most powerful numbers. And you look at all the stripes on the flag and the stars, like things are very iconic to do with America. And when it comes to your brand, it's the same thing. Like, when you talk about humanizing a brand, it's bringing out those emotions, those feelings. Like, when you're putting out a piece of content, when you're putting out a logo, and it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm working with my dad at the moment, right? And he's in insolvency. And he was laughing at me because I said to him, Dad, like, you got to, content's where it's at now. And we were sitting in my office and I'm filming him and I'm like, do it again. Like, make it humanized. Like, I want to hear stories about insolvency versus playing golf, and we're trying to tell stories and bring it in. Like, people want emotion. They want to identify with you as a person. So I think it doesn't matter what you're doing in terms of your brand. Just ask yourself, how is it making people feel? Back in award school, we used to do these crazy exercises we would get a brief on a Monday night. It was due on the Wednesday, and I'm not a drinker, but like I really got into like my red wine during that whole thing. I actually come from a bodybuilding background, like bikini. So I rarely drink. But back then I was like, this is hurting my brain. Like, the briefs are so crazy. And they would give us briefs like eco-friendly washing powder, and the proposition would be it's better for you. And you'd have to come up with these crazy ideas on how to make it interesting and how to humanize it and how to connect with people, because that's what advertising is all about. That's what branding is all about. So going back to it, I mean, you only need to look at the most iconic brands of all time, like even Michael Jordan, Air Jordan. People connect with the brand because of his life story about who he was as a personal brand, about taking things to the next level. And look how iconic that was a personal brand. That was one of the first personal brands of all time. But they humanized the experience. They humanized him as a person. I mean, he wasn't even allowed, they weren't allowed to wear colored shoes on the basketball court. They went through that whole process where they just paid the fine to stand out. Again, going back to divergent branding, right? So there's always this humanizing part of it where people, if you look very carefully, you're going to see a lot of divergent brands pop up, but they really are humanizing things, because the thing is, the world is a crazy place at the moment. And that's why people are connecting with them. You spoke about politics before. They're crazy ads. You only need to look online to see the different political ads. Like I saw one with Barack Obama, which I'll send you after this, but I was just like, whoa. Like, I can't even believe the stuff that's going on. Andrew Tate, remember what happened with him? So again, another divergent brand. Those are the brands that are standing out. Those are the humanized brands.
And I think for me, it's always been a little bit tough for me, because I think that as I was building my business, I was always so private. And I actually went to a brand strategist. This is probably like about 5 years ago. That's kind of how I started my Wealth on the Beach, and kind of we put together the ideas behind the brand and all that kind of stuff. We only worked together for a little while, but we at least came up with something that made sense, and I started working with it. And again, it was one of those things where I never put a lot of money behind my brand, because my business really is my bread and butter. And we never advertised in my business. My business was literally a referral business. We recruit, we train, we develop people. I've spent literally $3,000 in my entire career on advertising. That's it. So my business model was a little bit different than, of course, 80% of the businesses in the world. But it was very difficult, because this was what the guy kept telling me, the brand guy. He kept telling me that you gotta start opening up more. You got to start sharing your emotions. You got to let people see your warts. And this was really hard for me, because I had never, because I'm a sell the dream guy, right? I sell the dream. I talk about how to become wealthy. I talk about how to live the dream. I talk about how to, do what you want to do whenever you want to do it. Of course, people don't see me when I cry. Of course, people don't see me when I'm down and out, or I'm having a bad day, or, of course, I went through a divorce a couple of years ago. Nobody sees these things that happen to me in my life. And of course, I share very little of it. I mean, I only started talking about the divorce maybe 6 months ago, and it's been several years. So it's one of those.
Commend you. Absolutely commend you. But I mean, this is the thing, and this is what I really respect. And I'm very big on that. Like, to be honest, all of our work, a lot of it is referral. And I love that about us, because we get the high ticket clients. We don't get just anyone. Everyone I know is referred, or we've done a little bit of advertising, but it's like, you look at Lamborghini, right? Do you ever see an ad for Lamborghini on TV?
Never.
It's the same thing. So I believe, and I am different to everyone else, very similar to you. You got to show the action, and you got to show what you can do. And it's like a working machine. And I believe, like, be the best at what you do, and people will speak about you. A lot of my clients come to me through referral, and these are really amazing brands, amazing personal brands, but it's like they say to me, you're my secret weapon. And I am the guy, I'm kind of like the Navy SEAL. Like, I go under the radar with a lot of these people. There's probably a lot of brands that you've seen that I can't talk about because I've signed an NDA, or, we've worked on so many brands like that, but I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. And I think that's the most honorable way to build a business. And anyone can advertise these days, because you got a phone at your fingertips, you've got access to YouTube, you've got everything. I do believe in brand presence, but I also believe in class and grace. Like, one of my key figures of all time, I love, for the record, Grace Kelly, because that just doesn't exist anymore. That grace, that elegance, that class, it's very rare. And I think it's the same as building a really strong business. You got to make people come to you. Like, what's the allure factor behind building a business and a company, and your marketing and your brands? If you get that right, I think people will come to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a little bit of so there's always kind of like there's one side of me, right? There's the devil over here that says you got to keep posting. You got to, it's just about attention. It's eyeballs. It's blah, blah, blah. And then there's the other side that says, hey, you're posting too much. So explain to me how you would explain it to somebody that's just trying, because a lot of small businesses right now, they're watching
Sure.
right now, because you look at like a Grant Cardone, right? Grant and Elena Cardone. I mean, they post 25 times a day. So
Yes.
it's just massive attention. It's massive eyeballs. And that's kind of the way that I've been taught,
Yeah.
almost like a numbers game type of thing.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I think that's amazing. I think if that's your strategy, like, I mean, you look at Gary Vee, he's one of my favorite people. I've been following him from the beginning. I think he's so humble. I had the privilege of meeting him when he was in Sydney. I wrote my book actually like many years ago, and I actually got the chance to speak to him about it in person, and he motivated me to do that. So I think every person is different. Every strategy is different. I think when you put yourself in alignment with others, sometimes it may not work for you because you're a different person. Like we don't all have the same fingerprint in life. Like we all have different fingerprints. So what works for you as a person, and some things that work for Gary Vee are not going to work for me. They're not going to
Right,
work for
right.
you, Daniel. They're not going to work for Grant Cardone. I think Alana and Grant have done amazingly. I think that they're a very strong brand, but everyone is different, and we have this problem of it's the sheep mentality, like, oh, let's follow that person's strategy, or let's follow this person's strategy. It's a very challenging time that we're living through, but the number one thing I'm going to say is mental health, because social media can suck you up. Like, to be honest, I didn't post this whole week. I had too much work on, and it's not an excuse, and I should have posted and I should have scheduled, but should have, would have, could have. Like, that week is gone now, and you start a new week and you start again. And I'm happy to be real about this. And the other thing I was going to say is I know people that have millions of followers on TikTok and Instagram, but guess what they're making?
Nothing.
So it's not about how many followers you have. It's how are you actually running your business? Do you have actual clients? And some sources are not going to work for you. Like, we're very high ticket. So it's like, I don't get a ton of leads from Instagram. Instagram's kind of my visual diary. It's where I have fun. It's where I enjoy posting. I really enjoy it when I'm not exhausted from work and working tons of American hours, but I really enjoy the platform. I love it. Like, you go look at my history. I've got all my bodybuilding stuff on there. I've got all my, it's a psychology thing for me. It's my visual journal of my life, basically. And I think people just need to look at it differently. But I do believe to have a strong business, you have to be on social media. I don't believe I've always said quality over quantity, and that's my strategy, and that has really worked for me because that's who I am as a person. It's the same with people I allow in my life, clients I allow in my life. They say when you first get started in a business, you're like a beggar because you're proving yourself. And I know you went through this in your business, right? Like, you had to start from the ground up. You built something amazing. We all start with zero. Even Gary Vee with Wine Library, he started from zero. But I believe in quality over quantity, and it's about getting that attention through proving yourself and proving the quality of your work. But I think a strategy is really important, not just posting anything, posting stuff that makes sense to people that are watching it. And I believe in genuinely helping people. Like, since I was little, like a little baby, I've just wanted to help people, like 12 years old. I've always had this thing in me where I'm an empath, definitely, and I really care about people. And I think when you really care about people and you really care about the relationships, you've got to move forward. If you're investing in yourself, if you're taking care of your health, like, how can you not inspire others? Ed Milet, I mean, I love his content. And he speaks about certain levels of your life. And that's why I admire you being vulnerable, because those things that you go through, even with me, things that I've gone through in my life, like, I'm qualified to help people who are going through it now. I'm not very vulnerable on social media. I haven't spoken a lot about the things that I've gone through in life. I've had some very dark moments, but I think people see me as well put together.
So
And
tell me about a dark moment.
when I was working for one of the big firms, basically, one of the creative directors, the GFC hit, And what happened was I had given blood, sweat, and tears. I've got work ethic like no other. Like if I don't know something, I'll die working at how. And my work ethic is insane. I definitely do get that from my dad, that immigrant mentality. But we had, anyone who's watching us who knows about advertising, we had a Christmas party, and it's like basically Cirque du Soleil and fancy things, and everyone waits the whole year because you work your butt off. And back then it was a thing. You don't leave the office. If there's a pitch, you work till 4 a.m. So that week I worked till 4 a.m. Christmas party was the next night. Walk into work. I'm the only one there at 8 o'clock. The new creative director that we had called me into his office. It was an open plan office.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, Justine, I want to talk to you. I'd been there for 3.5 years, sitting in the chair, and he says to me, Justine, why are you here? And I went, what do you mean? Like, I'm here to work. Like, I don't understand. And he said, well, you're not worth your salary. I don't know why you're still here. I don't know what you're doing in this place. And I don't like, it takes a lot to like make me cry, but like my eyes were like welling up in tears. Like I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you do this wrong. You do this wrong. I don't know why you're still here. And he was like, get out. And like, I'm a very respectful person. So got up out of my chair, walked downstairs. It was just this pivotal moment in my life where there was all this foot traffic. People were walking around me, and I actually called my mom, and my mom is an incredible person. And I said, like, she said to me, what's wrong? You sound like you're in tears. I said, I am, because I've given this firm nearly 4 years of my life. It was my first, whatever. And I said, my creative director, who's something in this world, has told me that I'm nothing and I don't deserve my salary. And she said, Justine, this is your pivotal moment in life. You can either let someone's words define you, or you can let it make you. And she said, one day you're going to be on billboards and you're going to be doing amazing things, and you're going to remember this moment. You're going to remember how hard it was. And I'm telling you, if that situation didn't happen to me, I would still be probably in that office now. Because I wanted to be a big creative director. I wanted to be working on campaigns in Paris and doing all of that stuff for this company. But sometimes your path is just different. And sometimes Joe's path isn't going to be the same as Stephanie's path. And it's where God and the universe wants to put you in that life. You're meant to, I don't believe in coincidences. Like, you're put in situations to make you better or to teach you something, even in the darkest moments. But I've had a ton of dark moments.
Yeah, you're like uh-oh, what happened? Oh wow. All right, let's pause it real quick. We're gonna read. All right, so look, all I know is you're a flipping badass. Okay, I mean, you're doing some big things in the branding space in the world right now. You're kicking ass, taking names, and so look, I just want you to tell me, like, what do you want your legacy to look like, and kind of what's this next 5-10 years look like for you in your life?
I think doing the things I love in terms of freedom. So I want to be able to just help as many people as possible. I've got a number. So I want to help build as many $1 million empires as I can over the next couple of years, and really inspire people. Because I think what we're really good at and what I'm really good at is, if you're here, I'll show you where you need to be to get here. And I think that's definitely part of my legacy. I'm actually in the process of writing another book now, which is like, I know you know what I'm talking about. So I think we've got to leave this world a better place than how we arrived here. And that's definitely part of my legacy. I want people to live the life they were meant to live. And I believe that, not in a corny way, but we were all born with $1 million brand inside of us. And I think it's just a matter of finding it and getting someone to bring it out of you. And speaking on stages and inspiring people from the heart is really what I love to do. So I want people to remember me for that, and the lives I changed and the things I did to make them better. And that's what it's about for me, Daniel.
Good for you, Justine. You're definitely inspiring to so many people. There are a lot of now I know you work with a lot of big brands, but I'm sure there's a lot of people that want to reach out and talk to you and know more about who you are, what you do, how you do it. And who knows? I mean, there might be some people out there that want to, get together with you and to use your company to help them get to that next level. So how do we get a hold of you? How do we connect with you? And, tell us all that good stuff.
Sure. So I'm very active on Instagram. It's just Justine Pogroske. I'm sure you'll put the link below because it's quite a complicated surname, but Justine Pogroske _official, and LinkedIn. Definitely connect with me. I think that if you're in the corporate space or you're an entrepreneur looking to make a mark, even, I mean, you can put, I'm happy if people want to reach out through my email. It's justine@milliondollarbranders.com. If you've got any questions about branding, I always make time for people who have fire, who have tenacity, and have the drive to succeed. Like, I want to help you. So if you're out there and you're a little bit lost, email me. I'll email you back for sure.
Well, that's pretty awesome. I think a lot of people are going to take advantage of that. And I would say to my audience, reach out to Justine, and worst case scenario, just reach out on Instagram and say, hey, Justine, thank you for coming on Wealth on the Beach podcast with Daniel Alonzo. And, maybe, just say thank you to her for her value. Because I think that, at the end of the day, all of us, whether it be me or Justine or, so many people out there right now, we just want to make a difference. We just want to help people. We just want to see you do good. So if you're somebody listening right now, maybe your life's not where it needs to be. Maybe you're struggling through some sort of situation. Maybe you're a small business owner. Maybe your brand sucks right now, right? You got somebody right in front of you right now, $1 million brander that's going to put you on track to get you to where you want to go. So why not take advantage of that? Again, worst case scenario, send her a message, ask her a question. Doesn't mean, there's no obligation to ask her a question. So just ask the question, connect, start asking for start asking people for help. I'm a huge believer. One of my favorite books is The Aladdin Factor by Jack Canfield and Mark Victor Hansen. And it's all about asking for the things that you want and desire. And once you get to that point where you are willing to ask people and not care about what other people think about you, man, your life is going to get so much better. So with that said, Justine, thank you so much again for coming on the show. I appreciate your time. I appreciate the value that you gave us. I appreciate, and I'm just looking forward to the future collaborations that me and you are going to do. I just have a feeling, and I just I'll be I'll be rooting for you. Our audience is going to be rooting for you all of the way. Thank you again, and to everybody, continue to dream bigger than ever. Get after it, but most importantly, do it now. God bless you. We will see you at the top.
Thanks so much, Daniel. And I just wanted to say it's been an honor and a privilege, and appreciate you. And thank you for sharing your light and continuing to inspire so many entrepreneurs and people around the world with what you do.
I appreciate you. Thank you.